Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the MC Mechanics Podcast. Episode 6, recorded on January 23rd, 2024. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in for another episode of the Motorcycle Mechanics Podcast. This is Jed's Justin, and I'm here with Johnny.
Hey.
And what's been like a year since our last gathering. Lots happened.
That's right.
I've doubled my experience as a dad in that time. Now, the father of a toddler, which is just so much fun. But it's afforded me some more time off to get back to podcasting and doing what I love, which is talking motorcycles with Johnny.
That's right.
So we have so much to talk about, get caught up on.
Years worth of stories.
You've got probably more stories than I do at this point.
That's right.
But
quite a few.
Yeah.
I can remember having kids young and selling my bass boat, selling whatever else I had because it just sat there, couldn't get out. And I think the kids were, I don't know, they were almost teenagers when I got my first street bike, the 450, and then slowly just worked into a habit of flipping them and doing everything else and meeting crazy people on Craigslist at storage units and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I fully understand the little kids and not being able to do anything.
Yeah. Well, I think I understand and appreciate that too. There's a lot of folks that I've met that ride that are coming back to it after not doing it for like 20 years because they had the kids and they just kind of like had the machines and then sold the machines or let them sit and then got back to them later in life. And then, obviously really get back into it too. But I appreciate that. I understand that. And I don't pass judgment on that, but I get it, man. I get it. So
I think the prime moment, when the kids are little is you come home from work and you're trying to unwind on your drive home. And you walk in the door and your wife takes that 3-year-old toddler that's been driving her nuts and just hands it to you as you walk in the door. This one's yours. I'm cooking dinner.
Right.
So those were great moments.
No, she's, I think it's the other way around sometimes though.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Willa hands you Shan and says she's yours. Is that what Willa says?
Yeah. Yeah. Or I hand her to Shan.
Yeah.
Here you go. Your turn. Tag, you're it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've been doing the interesting back and forth. I've been working nights, weekends. That's kind of partially why I haven't been available much to do this stuff. So, which is fine. You work and then you watch your kid all day and then work all night and get 3 hours of sleep and watch your kid all day and work all night and around you go.
Hats off to you for being a working dad and jumping in there rather than saying, hey, this is not my duties. I go hunting and bring in the meat. You do the rest. I mean, nowadays that doesn't make it anymore. So
no, it takes a village, and it takes an effort for sure.
Well, it works for a short while, but then after that, you're by yourself. So
yeah, right. Well, it gives you more time for motorcycles. I guess
that's right. Yeah. Golly.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Cool. So what's going on in the world with Johnny? I got so much stuff, projects, customers ticking me off, all that jazz. So yeah, you go first.
Oh, I got a lot. I think it was a year of mini bikes. Toward the summer and the fall. I have 10 grandkids and of all different ages, and they've got some acreage close to me. So finally got a reason to get some mini bikes and try and do some stuff. I finally got the legendary Trail 70 running that's been in my hands since 95 and not taken care of. And
right.
I put it back together, and it was kind of amazing that, 20, 25 hours later, just working in the evenings, I got it running and riding around the yard. And I'm like, why did it take me that long to do this?
Dude, that thing was sitting on your shelf for years. Ever since I've known you, it was just a parts bike on the shelf.
Yeah. And, Bob wants it really bad. So I enjoy sending him videos of it revving it up and blowing the horn. And so he gets pretty upset. But, you know, it was supposed to be built for Ryan when Ryan was little, my oldest son. And then he joined the Marines and moved out.
And just so you know, folks, his oldest is about my age.
Yes, I think he's a year older since he just had a birthday. And then Morgan comes along and I thought I'll fix it up with him. Well, I never did it. So I got a video of both of them riding it down the street in the cul-de-sac and back. And it was just hilarious to see him riding it, thinking, you know, well, I fulfill my duty. And yeah, now we'll pass it on to grandkids. But,
Right.
and then a friend of mine, we were talking with somebody up the street and he said, hey, I got this Honda in my barn, in my shed. It's just sitting there. So I'm thinking, what is this? And he said an 1980 Honda. So turns out I go over and look at it and it was a little red XR80, which is perfect for the kids.
Oh, yeah.
So we made a deal, which was one of my typical deals. And I get it home and clean the carburetor and change the oil and clean the gas tank, and it started right up, you know.
Of course it did.
Yeah. So I took that out to the farm and the first grandkid gets on it and he just leaves. He's just gone. And I'm like, he's never used the clutch before. And it might have been 5-10 minutes. He comes back and I could tell the look on his face, something was wrong. And he raises his shirt and his like hip bone, it's got a pretty good size like raspberry on it or whatever. And I said, what happened? I don't know. I just went down. And so he parked it. And then my granddaughter, who's a year younger than him, gets out. And it took her 15, 18 tries of trying to do the clutch before she finally got the hang of it and then rode it. It was hilarious. Just, you know, watching one take off and he's a wild man. The other one's, you know, real careful. Just teaching somebody how to use a clutch. And you could see, let it out easy. It goes out easy and boom. It just every time I couldn't get them to understand, go slow, but they finally figured it out. And then we got on this Coleman mini bike kick where somebody, a renter in the past, left an older, you know, Tractor Supply Coleman mini bike with a motor locked up. So my other grandson, who's, you know, 19 years old or whatever, wants this thing, never ridden before. So Harbor Freight runs their motors on sale for $99 for a bigger motor than what's in it.
Predator.
And he works for Ace Hardware and he calls me up. You know, they call me Paw Paw. He said, Paw Paw, he said, we had a Coleman mini bike returned because the engine's making a noise. We gave them full credit. It's been sitting here for 6 months. Coleman said, do whatever you want with it. So they gave it to me. So it was a nicer one with a bad engine in it. So we buy another motor and put it in there. And I'm telling you what, his was okay because it had forks in the front, but it was hardtail in the back. It was a little bit bigger. And it was still tricky to ride, but it was kind of, you know, interesting. Mine, which was older, I think it was built in 2016, it said, it was the most dangerous thing I ever ridden in my life. And I'm like, how do people ride these things? So I thought, I'm not putting my grandkids on this thing. So I ended up trading it and getting a battery operated framing nailer that I really, really needed bad, you know, because I'm a big framer. And got that and a little bit of money, and he's happy and I'm happy. So I don't know. It's been a lot of fun this year just watching them. And then I've got a 250, is that a Yamaha? Yeah, Yamaha quad that I brought out there, got it running. And Deb said, you're not going out there every weekend to rebuild this thing and spend your weekend when they, you know, break it and do this. You know, you've got some other things to do, you know. Mm-hmm. I never went out there once all summer. It has started every time they go out there.
Of course.
And Ryan went out the other day with his son, my oldest, and he wanted to ride it in the snow. And I knew the battery was going to be dead and it's got a pull start. So Ryan grabs the rope and pulls it twice and the rope comes off in his hands and said, it's not going to start. So I guess I do have a project in the spring to get that thing going.
Yeah.
And then I got this rusty 75 MT 125 Elsinore literally out of a barn from a girl that I went to high school with. many, many years ago.
Yep.
And it hasn't ran in 15 years. And what's crazy is with it being a 75, she rode it on the farm. Yeah, look at that. Neil Young special.
Yeah.
Russ never sleeps. Um, I I got it home. She's looking for the title. She doesn't think she can find it, but I thought this would be a good one that if I get it running, they can ride it on the farm and not really do any damage to it, right?
Right.
And so it kicks over, but it sounded like the crank rod or the crank bearings were clanking real bad. So there's another picture I sent you that shows the flywheel and that one. And you could actually, when I took the cover off, I was going to start taking it apart. I noticed that the noise was coming from the flywheel, and
Yeah.
all those rivets holding the flywheel are loose. So the flywheel's jiggling back and forth inside. Never seen that before.
That's weird.
So Kentucky Bob, as we call him, not Vermont Bob.
Right.
Uh,
Not Bob the unit.
yeah, he looked at it because the coils on the pickup coils, the wires were messed up on it, and there
Mm-hmm.
was silver paint, like it looked like somebody tried to spray it. It's really weird. What turns out you can see inside where somebody used a hook puller to try and pull the flywheel off because they didn't have the right puller, and we think they bent it and messed it up trying to get it off.
Oh, gotcha. Yep.
So, before there's no spark to the plug. So before it could even do anything, the cheapest I could find was like $125, $150 on eBay
For a
and
flywheel.
for a flywheel and the unit behind it. And I just don't know if it's worth it or not. The bikes are worth a mint when they're restored, but
Yeah. I don't think that one's ever going to be
no.
restored.
Yeah, you would put $2,500 in parts and 2,000 hours labor so you could get $3,000 for it. So
Right.
I think I'm going to part it out. The parts are just outrageous for these things. And,
Mm-hmm.
I just grabbed the medium price on eBay of what things. There's the other one. Anyway, I grabbed just the medium price for, seats and fenders and engine and hood and the head. And it was like $2,000 in no time in parts.
Yeah. That's
So,
crazy.
yeah. And I mean, it's a shame because the odometer, she claimed the odometer worked. It has 1,470 miles on it.
Right.
So
Wow.
she rode it on the farm and she said she wrecked quite a bit. She's got the turn signals somewhere in a box, brand new. She doesn't know where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going through inventory from her dad's farm that had just passed away and she had inherited it. So I don't know. It's a shame to tear this thing all the way apart, but when you can see the money you can make off of it, it's pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
I would say part it out.
Yeah. I mean, it's nearly what, 50 years old? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, unless you want to, put it back together and let the kids ride it, I guess. But
Yeah.
it's probably pretty
Well,
tall for them.
yeah, it is. And it's just like the DT 125 I sold you. And then I had that Honda SL 125.
Yep.
When you get done, it's really not fast enough for the street. You might as well
Right.
get a moped. So this would be the same thing. And it's like a 250 is probably as slow as you want to go on the road,
Right.
In our roads out here, they wipe you out in no time with the speed they drive up and down the 4-lane highway. So there's no way I'm going to get on this going, be patient. I'll get to 50. Just hang on.
Yeah, I know.
So
it's like, what do you do with those kind of, like, even my little DT 125 I got from you, like, it was a fantastic little bike to rip around on.
yeah.
You couldn't really go anywhere on it.
Right.
So
Even going to school was pushing it down the main road there.
Yep.
You're trying to keep up with traffic and not hold anybody up.
Yep.
So
did going on the Honda 125 bit, we'll talk a little bit about my little project. I don't think I even showed this to you, but you know what? You can be surprised. This is the little 125 I restored for a customer.
Oh my gosh.
And complete, full side covers, except the airbox is not complete. I don't know what to do for the air filter element.
Yeah.
But I put new tires on it. And I put new tires on it. And what else did I do? Clean the carb, just put lights on it, and yeah, just clean the carb, and it started right up, and it puts around. He's looking to sell it in the spring. He wants like $1,500 for it. Which
Well, the reason why it started is that little word on the side of the engine there. So why it started.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
So,
Little word.
yeah.
Honda. So yeah, it was a cool it was a cool bike, but you're right. They are so slow. Like
Yeah.
it's like, what are you gonna do with this? Like 125 two-stroke, at least there's some little high-end power, but this thing, it was just like a death trap.
It looks like it's located at the junkyard.
Actually, this is my buddy's garage, which um he's he's got it's his like grandfather-in-law technically, that where the property is, and he's like one of those guys that believes that instead of like putting money into a 401k, it's better to just buy a Mack truck, or
Yeah.
a plethora of motorcycles and things like that. So like he has a bunch of vehicles that he sells and gets rid of to like kind of cash in off the savings account, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
but yeah, so that made me think of my 125 that I restored this year.
My neighbor, who I raced motocross with, Mike,
Mhm.
they decided to get his mom. I don't know if it was a CB 100 or 125, but it
Yep.
was like a 73 model. It was white with some red on the tank.
Mhm.
And they were trying to teach her how to ride it. And she had no business being on a bike. She was small and frail.
Mhm.
But the house accidentally caught on fire when Mike was in it and his parents were out of town. And all of his dirt bikes got burned up, but that bike got burned up with 125 miles on it because nobody rode it. And it was just a shame. I mean, he had friends' bikes that they were stored in a basement, but
Yep.
when you think about that, it's like, man, that bike had 125 miles on it.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
the little CB 125, I think, has like less than 1,000 miles on it,
right.
because it was a similar story. It was the guy, the grandfather-in-law, bought it for his wife, who never rode it.
Hmm.
So, and he went to ride. He rode it around a little bit, and then stopped riding it because he wasn't really into motorcycles. So,
Right.
and it's probably because it was slow.
Right.
So, um, so the big news in Vermont, I don't know if you heard, but we have to title everything now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's like step 2 from the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder why they did that.
Because people were abusing it, I guess. I think the state's looking for some more fees, because it's like you have to pay for the titling fee now, and it's like $50. So I think they're just trying to get a little extra dough on top of what they're already trying to make. And it gets rid of the illusion that people will come here to like register stolen vehicles, which was happening. So
I was already thinking, it was like, okay, how could I convince Justin to take this paperwork and get me a title and then transfer it to me, was step 2 after they took that away. And
yeah.
yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, they just flipped the switch this January. What did it in was I went to go register the Goldwing, because I was driving around, riding. I rode the Goldwing a couple weeks ago when it was 17 degrees, not like 0, and I realized my registration had expired, so I went to go register, and like the registration fees went through the roof. It was like, I think it's something like $70 now to register a motorcycle for a year, which
Man,
is ridiculous.
right.
And so I was like, went online and looked at the legislation to see what was changed, and then I came across the titling laws. So I actually have one motorcycle that doesn't have a title, and I can't register it. There's nothing I can do with it. It's just,
Well, it's funny you say that. The SR 250 that I got from Craig,
yeah,
uh, I got a tag on it so that I could get a registration
yeah,
before I moved, and I have that.
yeah.
And I think I have the tags for it.
You're
And I
lucky.
was going to take that to Kentucky and register it. I wonder now if it's going to get kicked out when I try and transfer it.
I think what you can do is, if it's registered in your name, John, you can apply for title. so they can give you title for any vehicle that's registered in your name. So all the vehicles that I have, like the Wing and all the Bonneville, I have a title for anyways because it's newer. But like the GS 1000, for example, it's registered in my name. Now I have a title for it, which now makes it worth a crap ton more
Yeah, that's
money.
right. That's
So,
right.
which is cool. Although I
Yeah.
don't want to sell it because I really like it. I don't think I'm ever going to sell it. I'm at this point where I don't really want to buy, sell lots of stuff,
Unless
especially
I find a big
title.
quad.
Huh?
Unless I find a big quad.
That's right. You find a really nice quad. We will talk. Yeah. Because that's, man, I've been thinking about getting a 4-wheeler. It's been on my list of things of don't really need, but it would be super nice to have a plow on it and just move snow instead of getting the snow blower out and doing
Yeah.
it that way. But
Yeah. That'd be nice.
yeah, but the GS 1000 is also nicer, I think.
Right.
Um, but yeah, that's the new law in Vermont. Yeah, I was so frustrated, and I know a buddy who this is what he does is he picks up bikes for a song like cheap. I think I helped him pick up like a bike. What the heck is it? A Virago 1100? What was the last year they put those out? Like 2000?
Oh, no, I was thinking it was 80s or 90s.
No, it looks like it is, but it's like I want to say maybe late 90s.
Wow.
Um, he bought it for a song. I went and picked it up for him, and now he's like, I'm like, dude, do you have a title for that? He's like, no, the guy doesn't have a title. No one has titles for any of their vehicles. And I'm like, can you get a title? He's like, probably not. I'm like, yeah, scrap metal.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. I mean, that's the thing that's like really a shame is that like a lot of these old classic motorcycles that have been sitting in barns for years and years and years and don't have titles are now, well, going to the scrapyard. They're not going to be able to be restored or taken.
Well, I follow Brickhouse Builds here. It's
Yeah.
my favorite YouTuber at the moment, BJ English. And he's got a run on CB 750s like I had on triples for a while.
Yep.
But he's getting them with no titles, and I'm trying to figure out what he's going to do because he had several videos on. I had the Vermont loophole, now it's closed. What am I going to do? And I kind of laugh, going, "Well, I got a loophole. I've got this figured out. There's somebody in middle of Vermont that might help me out." And now with this January 1st, it's like I wonder what everybody's going to do.
I don't know. I've had people reach out to me like I'm not even really close friends with, like acquaintances. They're like, "Can you register my motorcycle?" Like last fall, I'm like, "I don't even know you, no,"
Yeah.
because last year they changed it so that you'd have to be in order to register the motorcycle, you had to live in Vermont. Like that was the
Right.
new law that went through, which was cool. Like if I wasn't sweating it, I was still being able to pick up cheap bikes and you know either get them registered or just pass them on for a good deal. But now it's like I'm glad my inventory was low. I'm gonna say that because if
Yeah.
I had high, like sometimes like I'll go into the winter with a high inventory, just because it's cheap right now and bikes are like, you can get into a bike for like three to $500, which is
Right.
nothing.
Right.
So, thank God I didn't do that because then I'd be just sitting on nothing. I know unless it's under 300 cc's, and then you're okay. You don't have to worry about the titling law. But like,
Oh, really?
yeah, it's under 300 cc's. You're still exempt from title. Thank goodness. So I've got
Right.
a couple of bikes that I've acquired, like that old what the heck was it? The S50 that I have.
Yeah.
That's a 63 S50. I can't remember. Old.
Yeah. I
Um,
didn't know that.
Yeah, that's a project I need to finish, and I'll probably now finish because I need to get rid of it and I need to sell it, and I don't need a title to do that. So,
Yeah, I go through spurts of working on projects. The mini bikes were kind of fun, and the
hmm
house projects just got put on hold,
hmm
uh, financial reasons, or just not lost interest. But when you do remodeling all day, you don't want to do it when you get home, and uh, so
I hear
it,
that.
yeah, and it kind of when I have this SR 250 in the corner that is so close to just being done, and I realized with the Trail 70 how long it took to get it going.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why don't I just work on this thing and quit getting other projects? So that's when I got the 125 Elsinore going. I'm such an idiot. I shouldn't have done that. I've got I had a scrap, a guy gave me a TS 185 Suzuki with the motor in a basket and it needed a top end. And then he gave me a TS 250 Suzuki that was missing a ton of parts. And I was thinking, I'll part that out to get money to work on the 185. And now I'm probably just going to part everything out and just concentrate on the SR 250. So I was
Yep.
trying to have a motorcycle for every age group of the grandkids. And I finally was like, I can't do this.
It's a lot of
So,
machines.
yeah. Yeah. A lot of maintenance and repairs. So
Yep.
we'll see how it goes. But
Yep.
um, I don't know. I've got, I think I sent a picture, a big wall unit bookshelf building for my daughter in her condo, and she's been waiting not quite a year, maybe about 9 months for me to get to it because we were doing other stuff.
Right.
So
Putting
now,
putting
it took up
motors
my
in mini
whole,
bikes.
yeah, it took up my whole shop with wood dust everywhere. I think I sent you a couple of pictures. It was
Yeah. I think it's
ridiculous.
huge. It's
Yeah.
huge.
And so that should be wrapped up this week. So that's a huge thing off my to-do list.
Yep.
So Deb said that I need a whiteboard in my shop so that I can keep track of everything. So I got one and I listed it per job and home and Maggie's and other things and motorcycles. I got so depressed when I looked at it that it was full. I haven't touched it since. You know, you work for a month and look at it and realize you got one light item you can take off.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is depressing. I'm not
This
doing this anymore.
yeah, well, you're talking about like a project list.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I just
It's
riding and riding and riding. I'm like, this is crazy. No wonder I'm exhausted.
I'm exhausted from writing out a list of the things I've got to do.
Yeah, and my body just doesn't hold up like it used to before,
Yeah.
so it's hard to get in 8, 9, 10 hour day and doing stuff, It's just
Right.
hard.
Yep. Have you been riding? Did you ride the XS, the triple at all this past year?
Yeah, and the 650, I
Yeah.
went back and forth on it. I usually take a picture of the odometer in January and the next January to see how humiliating how many miles I put on it.
You can just copy it.
I think, gosh, I don't know. I don't think I got over 500-600 miles on each bike this year, but I've got a
Yeah.
loop where I go down to Rabbit Hash, which someday you'll be able to try that. But it's like
Hmm.
a 40-mile loop, and it's all back roads. I might see 5 cars in the 40 miles,
That's nice.
and I go one way, then I go the other way, then I crisscross, just to mix it up a little bit. But I can leave the house and hit side roads and not get into any traffic at all, and it's just relaxing.
Yep.
You know, Deer is my biggest issue is what deer are gonna jump out at me.
Right.
But,
Nice to have that around your house, though, John.
oh gosh, it's incredible. It's part of the reason why we bought the house. I was thinking, "Yeah, I like the house, but I can turn left and go for a ride," So,
Hmm. Yep.
when I had the bikes at the storage unit up the street, it was like, Isle of Man to try and get from the storage unit to the 2-lane road to be able to ride. I guess
Right.
with my older age and hitting 60s that my anxiety of something happening is greater than it was when I was younger.
Right. Right. And I bet it's better than like even when you lived in Vermont. Like you live right in the middle of Essex Junction, dude.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was fun riding for at least like 15 minutes,
Right.
you know?
Oh, and you had to do 25 miles an hour for 5 miles before you could do anything,
Yeah.
but
And
I still miss some of those roads too, but
yeah, because if you got on the outskirts of Essex Junction, like out towards like I don't know, what is that? Jericho and like
yeah,
um
15 out of Route 15,
Richmond
I
and
think it
stuff
is.
like that. Yeah. There's nice riding out there. Especially like
It's been 3 years, and I can't believe it. I'm already forgetting town names and highways to
Mhm.
be able to describe to Bob when I talked to him. Remember when we went over here and I couldn't remember Jericho
Yeah,
or any of that stuff. It's a shame that it only took 3 years to forget it, but
it's all good.
yeah, it's all
I,
good.
it's not like it's an age thing because I forget stuff too.
Yeah,
So
right. Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm looking forward to 15 or 20 years so I can finally run for president. So,
Yeah, I mean,
when I'm 80.
good. Oh, okay, yeah, gotcha. Right.
Yeah,
See, if you think your usefulness is done,
that's right.
just look at the White House.
That's
Either
right.
either side of the aisle. It's ridiculous.
Mm, man.
Oh man, we're not gonna go political today.
No, we're not.
Oh man. That's funny.
There's not much to talk about anyway. It's kind of boring. So,
Hmm. I I think this year for me, it was a slow year. I did 10,000 miles.
man, that's crazy.
That's that's one of the lowest I've had in a long time. And
Wow,
I think that's still pretty good considering, but I think 6,000, almost 7,000 of those miles were all on the Goldwing.
man.
I ride
There
that
was,
thing.
there was a commercial back. I think I mentioned it before. Back in the '80s, when the
Yeah.
Honda 500 Interceptor came out,
Oh yeah, yeah.
uh,
V4
where
baby.
the old guys are on the porch in, I guess they're in Louisiana, and he says, "Why is Bubba going that way when he lives the other way?" And he says he's taking a long way home. Everybody knows he's from Shreveport. And so my boss would always quote that all the time, meaning I'm taking a long way home on his bike. I'm not just going to get there and be done.
Right.
And I think of you sometimes when you say that on your way home you put 125 miles and you're 10 miles from the house. I'm like, how's that possible?
Uh, it's I was looking at it. I was looking at my maps today because it was I'm part of the Amen Moto Discord. Like Amen Moto has their own little Discord channel, which is some fans and me. And there were guys were talking about like riding and going for rides and miles and stuff like that from last year. And they had a big ride, which was like 300 miles, which is a big ride, and it looked like a really fun time because they're in their riding glory right now, and they
Yeah.
love to rub it in. But
Oh yeah.
that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Come June, I'll be sending them the pictures of a road with a curve in it. And I
That's
win.
right.
So, but anywho, yeah, I was like, we were talking about riding, and when in the year I did like 41,000 miles in a year.
Mm.
And I was riding 100 miles a day, and I would leave my house or leave work, and I would go all the way to New York on the other side of the lake, and then go on the other side of Lake Champlain, which, folks, if you don't know, upstate Vermont, New York, Vermont area, there's a lake. Lake Champlain divides the states. I would go on the other side of the lake, drive all the way down to the bottom of the lake, and then cross over and come back home that way. 100
Wow.
miles every day. And then on the weekends, I'd put like 300 to 600 miles on a day.
Man.
You know,
I still might be 40 to 50 miles in one loop. And I probably shouldn't say this in case Deb hears it, but when I pull up, uh, even though it's relaxing and you're by yourself and you can, finally get your thoughts in line or whatever
right,
and
right.
categorize. When I pull up, it's all I can do to swing my leg over the bike to get off of it, and that big triple weighs 500 pounds. I'm like, oh boy, we're going down. We're going down.
With tires this wide.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's comical to see me get on and off this thing, but it's worth every bit of it.
Yeah. Well, that thing's got that nice is a sergeant seat, I think.
No, that was on the original one that I sold you and
Oh,
got
right.
back.
You got the 850 now. I forgot.
Yeah,
You went big bore.
I went big boy. But I redid the seat on it in somebody had taken the main part of the first section and carved it out and put this like gel pad in there.
Yeah.
And I took it apart. I got a new cover and took it apart and I built it up, and it still needs to be built up a little bit more. I didn't have really good foam to make it firm,
Yeah.
but I'll have to do that again someday. But uh, I don't know. It's still as cheesy as it is to everybody else. It's still comfortable to ride, you know. And
Yeah.
when I get on the 650, the SR, it really does feel like a skinny, nimble toy, even though it's fast for a 650, I guess,
Mhm.
for my age. But sometimes it's just kind of rigid turning and going in the turns, and it's just not cushiony like the 850.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Because the triple's kind of a cream puff, and the 650s, I think. Well, it's
did
just
you just call
designed.
me a cream puff?
No, not you. Your Mike.
because you forget. I mean, you forget triple means power, you
That's right.
know?
Triple means power, baby.
I got
Triple
I got
means power.
I got the Craigslist ad to prove it. My gosh.
It's so funny. And
Yeah.
I shared that image. We're making shirts and stickers, by the way, that say triple means power, because that's what it means.
That's
But
right.
I shared that image, and everyone's like, "Oh, that does. It means power. It means smooth power." I'm like, it's a joke. Like, it means
Well, it's funny, the bike was bike of the year when it came out, but it was rated like 3rd or 4th out of the 4 for power,
right.
you know, but yet for some reason somebody gave it bike of the year. Never could figure that out.
Can't figure it out either, because it's shaft jacks. It's not. I don't know, man. Like, it's not. It's not.
Well, you remember the blue one I had that I sold Sam that was I guess a G or whatever. It was like in
Yeah.
between a standard and a cruiser. It's like, the model where they put all these parts together and say this is a new model.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
you throw that throttle and the back end just kind of kicks
Hmm.
up about a half inch.
Yeah.
This one doesn't do that. And I don't know if it's
That's
because
good.
it's special or what, but it just doesn't do it.
Is it maybe it's the 850? I don't know.
No, they're both 850s. I'm just saying
Interesting.
they're just enough different. One's an 80, one's an 81, but there's
Hmm.
something about the style of it that it just kind of, because you remember the original 750
Oh yeah.
was like a standard model. It was like a rectangle box is the way and it feels like that when you ride them.
Yeah. Just a
And
standard universal Japanese motorcycle, basically.
right.
Yep.
And so they made that, I think they called them G's. I can't remember, but to me, it looked like one of those models. Like we're going to take parts from this one and parts from this one, and
Right.
here's a new model.
Yep.
And Sam loves it. I
Is
mean,
yours a midnight special?
no,
Ah,
I think that was in 78 or 9. I don't think they did that to the
I thought they
850.
made him
Well,
an
maybe they
850
did.
midnight special
Yeah, they did.
with the gold rims.
Yeah,
That's cool, man. That's like
yeah, that would be something else.
that gets the women.
That's right. Well, I don't know if you can you see me pointing at the next to the yellow sign?
Yeah, the wheelie sign.
Yeah.
It's a picture
So
of a wheelie.
a
Guy
good
doing a
friend of
wheelie.
mine got me this sign for Christmas and said, I don't know, it's a motorcycle. Well, I started laughing because it's a Yamaha, it's a street bike, and it's a single and it's painted orange. And I wanted to paint the SR250 orange for years when I saw this one picture. And I said, oh, that's confirmation. I got to do it now.
Yep, that's right.
And I have Sam gave me an extra 850 special gas tank
Yeah.
and side covers it's like a red color. It's not maroon. It's pretty bright.
Yep.
And so now I have an extra set of everything to go on the 850. And I thought it'd be cool to paint that orange. So I had a 250 and an 850, Yamaha. So I'll do that someday. Because you know what they say, once you got the paint in the sprayer, you might as well just paint everything.
That's right. Just do it all
get
at
it out.
once. Yep.
So
You don't want to waste all that paint.
that's right. It's what my customers
Oh, yeah.
say. When you got that brush wet, why don't you come in here?
Right. Right. It's only work.
That's right. What's the big deal?
That's right. Oh
So,
man. So does the 850 have the primary change stretch like the 750 does, or
it does, but this poor thing's only got 11,000 miles on it. And so it's got a good second gear and the primary chain's good.
yeah.
I don't know what I did with it. Let me grab it real fast. Sorry for that.
Yeah, you're fine.
So
Sick of editing.
this guy made this. I don't know if you can make it out or not.
Oh yeah. It's like a plastic looks like kind of like a tensioner.
Yeah, and it fits inside that clutch basket housing, and it's something that pulls up the slack on the primary chain, because I have a video on one where I think the chain went up almost an inch, and I was like, well, that's my noise in the motor. And I guess
Yep.
it's hard to find those chains. You can find them used on eBay, but they're stretched.
They're all stretched.
Yeah. And I think somebody in the UK sells them, and I don't know, I want to say $200 or something, but
It's not worth it.
it's just, it's not going to fail. It's not going to explode. It's just clanging the side of the case
Right.
and it makes noise. Well, that would take up the slack so it's not banging. But,
Yeah.
some of the old shafties, as we call them on
Oh,
the group,
shifties.
would complain about, particles from that going everywhere. So when one popped up, the guy said, I made 6 of them, first come, first serve. And I might have
Yep.
paid $40 for it. I bought it instantly thinking, well,
Yep.
someday I'm going to need that if I'm going to have a triple. So
Right. So if anyone aren't familiar with the old XS 750, 850 triples, they're shaft driven motorcycles. So there's a lot of wear and a lot of strain on the drivetrain to begin with. But for some reason, they decided to put a primary chain in them for whatever reason. Almost
it's
every
like
other
an inch
motor,
wide too. It's
yeah.
huge.
And for some reason, most motorcycles that year that were shaft driven, they're all primary gear driven. So
Yeah.
like it makes no sense why they would put a primary chain in there, but they did, and they stretch, they get noisy. So
Yep.
interesting. So yours doesn't make noise now, so it's pretty
No,
good for probably another 250 miles or so.
at least 2 more loops the rabbit has. Oh gosh.
Probably good. Oh man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm doing the it's called the salty monk conversion. It's a GSR like slang or terminology called the salty monk brake conversion for the GS line. Mostly the big bikes like the big blocks, the 750 and the 1100s, 1000s and such. You know how notoriously bad the front brakes are on the GSs. So Suzuki made a beautiful motorcycle with a GS 1000, GS 1000G, but it just doesn't stop. Like it goes
Right.
really fast, but it just doesn't slow down.
Right.
So I'll be doing that I'll probably do a video of it too. Of this spring is putting the basically upgrades. You get the Tokiko 2-pot brakes off the SV650 or the V-Strom, no SV650, or I think they're on Kawasaki's too and stuff like that, like some of the Ninjas and such.
Right.
So you get the bracket from this guy named Salty Monk. His name's Dan, by the way. His real name's Dan, and he's on the GS Resources. And you bolt that to the fork, and then you take off the old single pot calipers that you can watch completely deform when you slam on the brakes. They don't do anything but like start moving.
Right.
And then you put the Tokikos on, and then you replace the rotors with CBR 600 F3 rotors.
Wow.
You get floating rotors, you get better brake response. Apparently works a lot better. Right now it's just like you can get away with like a twin pot on a 750, but with like a 1000, you go over 70 and you slam on the brakes, it's just like nothing happens. It's just like
Right.
it's just exercise of futility. It doesn't you don't rely on them to slow down.
That's right. That's
It's,
right.
it's so funny because these old bikes, these old, the triple and the GS and all these there's other bikes that have other problems. We talk about Viragos for days, but like, all these things that like these ideas that were really good, but then like they totally forgot or had oversight on some of the other components.
Right.
But
I think with the XS 750 and 850 specials, they had this brake caliber that kind of hangs from a bolt
yeah,
and they kind of float, and they were terrible. But yet the standard model had different forks because it didn't have the leading axle fork. So they had totally different brakes, and they were pretty good for brakes. I don't
so
know why. Mine seemed to work pretty good, but
yeah,
you
because
remember the one that I sold you? You had to almost shim the calipers to get them to
yeah,
ride just right. It was ridiculous.
yeah, they sucked.
Yeah.
They were bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like, it was like a pole design, right? Like it was on the other side of the fork. I can't
Yeah.
remember. Yeah.
It's just kind of hanging down,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
hanging fruit with one bolt going
Right,
down.
right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, stupid design.
And it's weird when you ride the 650 Kawasaki and then you switch off and you go to that one and you realize that you were using one finger on the front brake on the Kawasaki and stopping on a dime, and the other one you're like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah.
So
I think I have a picture of it. It was such I thought I did. Oh well. Oh, I do. Here it is. Hold on. Come on. There it is. There she is.
Oh man,
Triple means
I wish
power.
I had that seat again.
So that red paint job really helped out with the brakes. To tell you what, no.
That's the one that I got from a plumber friend of mine.
Yep.
That he inherited it when he bought a shop. I think I paid $3 or $3.50 for it. Brought it home.
Yep.
You looked at it and you went, I always wanted a triple, and you paid me $3 or $3.50 for it. You took it home, did a ton of work on it, brakes, painted the calipers, did all this work.
I did a
And
lot to that
sold it back
bike.
to me for $350.
Yeah. Yeah. You basically got all the parts. I think I put tires on it too.
Yeah, and you gave me a box of like extra pods and
Yeah.
oil filters and all this stuff and brake pads. You ordered brake pads and they doubled the order on you, if you
Right.
remember.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's when I found out that if you could see, if you can't see, then I'll explain it. But there's a leading axle fork. It's an old school type of fork that they don't put on motorcycles at all, except for cruisers, I think, these days. And if you look at the caliper, there's no bolts. You can't see a bolting surface on the fork. All you see is this weird cast flange off the fork on the backside. There's a single bolt. One bolt holds that caliper, which is, by the way, undersized for the size of the bike, to the fork. There's two of them.
It's undersized because triple means power. That's why.
That's right. You got triple needs power. It needs to be lightweight and high performance. Eesh. It was a cool.
You know what's funny is my
cool
first
bike.
job. My first job at a Yamaha dealership when I was 18, just turned 18, was putting those together new out of the crate and test riding them.
That's funny.
And, along with a lot of XS 650s and XS 400s. But I thought those things were pretty cool when I would be able to test ride them up the road. And to think all these years later, I owned one.
Yeah.
But this bike here is famous because I got it back from you and I rode it for 1,500, 2,000 miles.
Yep.
Took it to Rice-A-Rama in Massachusetts.
Yep.
And the great Ken Kaplan bought it off of me.
That's right. And it's on Kaplan's site. There's actually a video of this bike, and it was rebuilt, quote unquote, by a motorcycle master mechanic.
A professional motorcycle mechanic.
Professional motorcycle mechanic. And it's hilarious. And I feel so bad for whoever bought that machine because I worked on it. And back and forth between us like twice. We didn't pay jack for it. I think he sold it for like a couple grand. And yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sold on eBay for $1,900, I think.
That is hilarious.
Yeah. And it was good. The deal was
who is the professional motorcycle mechanic? Is it you or is it me?
I don't know. He says John's one of my subscribers. He's also a professional motorcycle mechanic. And this was his daily rider. And that both of those are an oxymoron because I'm not professional and I'm not a daily rider. So
we just talked about earlier in the podcast that John does 600 miles a year.
But what's great is to take that video and clip out the 3 seconds. He's also a professional motorcycle mechanic. And when anybody questions anything I say, I text that to him immediately. He's also a professional motorcycle mechanic. So, yeah.
There it is. There's a piece of history right there, folks. Yeah. That's why triple means power, baby.
But it was in good shape for a 750. But
it was.
The second gear was just starting to get a little bit weird in it.
Yep.
You could sense it was going to happen. I bought 2 more after that and didn't like either one of them. It was the standard rectangle one, and I couldn't stand riding it.
Yeah.
And then I bought the blue one with the fairing, and that's the one I sold Sam. So
yeah. I think that one had a talking primary, if I recall.
It had a what?
A talking primary chain.
Yeah.
As I remember, because it was like, this isn't normal, and that's when I did my research, and I was like, oh, okay, it is normal. It's fine. It's fine. Just doing oil change 500 miles sooner. It's fine.
I think it was. I don't know if it was late in the year or early in the year.
Yeah.
That I went through. I almost said the wrong word. What we used to say, smuggler's notch.
Yeah.
And we had a nickname for it at the other company I worked for. But anyway, I went through it, came down the hill, and I went, I don't want to go all the way back that way. I'm going to go ahead and go back through the notch. And somebody was coming and I dumped the clutch and took off. And I thought the transmission went out. It just was like, and I stopped and pulled in the clutch and everything was fine. I still to this day don't know what it was, but I let out the clutch and it went fine.
Yeah, we know what it was.
Yeah. And I'm not hard of there. That's the problem right there.
That's it. That's
That's it.
why you broke it.
Yeah.
There's
That's when
Johnny.
that's when I stole Rossi's bike when he wasn't looking. So, but I'm pretty easy on bikes. I wasn't easy on dirt bikes as a kid, but street bikes, I'm pretty easy. And I was like, what on earth just happened? I can never do that again.
Yeah, that was funny. It's just like the time when you let me drive your 750 and you're like, I'm like, oh, the clutch is slipping as I like just get after it right out of my driveway. We only knew each other for about 20 minutes at that point.
Oh, yeah, that was my father-in-law's GS 750.
That's right.
I didn't even know it slipped, and you rode 15 feet out of the driveway and nailed it. I'm like, you don't even know how this bike runs, and all I could hear was the clutch. I'm like, oh my gosh, who is this guy I just
Well, I think your springs are shot.
Oh, it's another story.
Oh, that's another story for another time. That's pretty funny. Yeah,
Well,
we've done a bunch of them.
I sold my 500 Interceptor this spring or summer.
Good. Because you didn't know what you're going to do with that thing.
I finally got it running. It was one of those things where it was on the lift the whole time.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm going to get this running. I bet when I get it running, I'd be lucky to get $1,500, $2,000 for it. And Sam and Dave sent me a video of it running. So I know they didn't have it very long. But as I was reading up on it, apparently, I don't know what it is, if it's what it's called. Is it called the journals and the cams?
Are you talking about the cam? Oh, yeah.
Like the bearing that it holds in or whatever. But apparently those are notorious for burning up in those things in the V4.
I was going to say, did it have any compression or did it run?
Well, it had compression and I got a battery in it and messed with it. And
that's good.
Somebody put this tiny toggle switch in the wiring harness by the headlight. I just happened to see it one day. Nobody knew about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, great. If I ever get it running, what does this do? Is this a secret way to start it or what is it? So I never even cleaned the carbs. I mean, it sat long enough. The carbs kind of gummed up a little bit and I put a little bit of spray in there, liquid mechanic, to try and, get it going.
Yep.
And then I backed it up in to the garage door and messed with it. And I got it running, but man, something was noisy up top. And I thought, well, is this the noise it's supposed to be making?
Nope.
So I finally said, that's it. I'm selling it. And I don't know if I listed it on Marketplace or what it was, but a guy up north, maybe Columbus or whatever, started talking. And I always feel funny when people drive 2 hours to pick something up. I try and be as honest as I can. Say I have no history on the bike. The guy I bought it from had no history on the bike.
Right.
I have a signed title from the original owner.
Yep.
So my friend didn't transfer it and I didn't transfer it. I was as honest as I could be. And I might have had $500 in or whatever. And I sold it for $1,000. And we tried to start it in the driveway because I told it would run. And it starts popping and like it's going to start. And I think it revved up just enough to where he could see that it would run. And I could hear the motor.
Yeah.
He knew quite a bit about them. And he said, okay, I'll take it. I was like, you will? He loaded it up. And one thing he noticed was a bunch of the bolts were drilled out around the side of the motor. He said, oh, this is designed for safety wire. And I went, safety wire? So both of us kind of looked at each other. It's like it was probably a track bike, So I'm like, well, great. He's going to back out. But he's like, okay, I'll take it. And it was an impulse buy for him, I think. And we kind of laughed about it. He's like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm doing it. And he's going to go through it,
Yeah.
I never felt such relief to just have it off the lift and gone.
Yeah.
And I really didn't have much money in it. You know, I did some trading with Sam and David and some
Right.
cash, and
Right.
I drove to Ithaca to get it. I had more money in gas than what I had in it, and that
Yep.
was when gas was at a premium.
Right.
You know, it was
Right.
$4.75 a gallon in New York when I bought it. So it was just an impulse. Like, I just got to get out of the house. It's cold. I'm going to go see these guys, and spent the day with them, spent the night at David's house, and, you know, finally got to meet these guys. It was a blast. And then I'm driving home with this bike that I never did anything to for a year and a half, you know?
Yeah. I remember you going, "What am I doing?" I'm like, "I don't know. What are you doing?"
Yeah. Yeah. I
More.
mean, I got on it. The position of the bike, with my joints, I couldn't ride it, you know?
Yep.
That's why I sold the Bandit, because I physically couldn't ride it, you know, and I miss that thing.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm like, why did I do this? So I made a little bit of money off of it. So
Yeah. So you're referring to cam lobe,
who?
the cam lobe, the
Camlo. Okay.
the thing that presses against the shim over the valve, the spring.
Well, this is
Bucket.
a MC Mechanics podcast, so
Yeah.
edit out the part where I said journals so I don't look like an idiot. So
Yeah, it's fine. And we should really be called the MC Shade Tree Mechanics, because that's
yes.
what we really are.
Yeah.
We're not professional motorcycle mechanics, folks, despite
No.
some people claiming that we are. But hey, if
Yeah.
you've got over 20,000 subscribers to your YouTube channel and you call us professional, we are professional.
That's
So,
right. I remember the one ad. I think I might have copied you. The guy was reselling one of your bikes, and he had this whole description of the bike, and he said the guy I got it from considered himself a mechanic and did this and did that. And he really went through it. And I think I highlighted that, sent it to you. He considers himself a mechanic.
I don't think I said that to anyone. I just say that I work on I tell people all the time, I'm a shade tree mechanic. That's what I am.
Well, it was his opinion of,
Oh,
you know, the
I
way he
was a
put in the
mechanic.
ad. Yeah.
He thought I was a
I
mechanic.
got it from a guy who considers himself a mechanic, and he did this, this, and this. Like, he was building it up. Like, this is really it, you know?
Yeah. Like, this guy knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I do. Most times. Sometimes I
Right.
don't. And
Yeah.
then, but usually I don't pass it along to people. Unless I openly tell them that there's something wrong with it. But
That's my problem. I've got not OCD, but I feel like when I put something for sale, everything's got to be taken care of.
yeah,
I feel bad selling them to something with turn signals don't work or whatever, or, you know, has trouble starting cold. It's like, I got to fix it before I sell it to somebody. I hate making excuses.
right.
Uh, I don't know.
Well, I mean, yeah. I've had a couple guys come up, and I think, was it last year I sold a Twin Star, bought a Twin Star, sold a Twin Star, and it wasn't perfect, and I sold it for like $1,000. I didn't sell it for a lot,
Right.
maybe a little more than that, but not much more. And I didn't have much into it, but other than my time. But it was, dude, it was not like, I sold it. I did the 12-volt conversion on it, so like it worked. Like, all the ignition, I put a brand new coil in it, new plugs. I was having issues with, the hell was I? I was having issues with the points or something, and I put Rebel 250 bits in it. It worked great. And what happens? I bought the bike and then I went to ride it. Typical Honda. This happens quite a bit for a lot of Hondas I've owned. I go to ride it and the clutch is gone. Like, clutch is just done. So we'll replace the springs and the plates, and we were fine. That happened with a CX500 I had, and the Goldwing had the clutch that actually came back, but that was because of really bad sludgy hydraulic brake clutch fluid.
Right.
But yeah, I was just like straightforward with the guy. I'm like, it's got lawnmower mufflers on it, dude. Like, it's not
Right.
it's not 100%, but you're buying it, and it was street legal. I was like, if you want it, go for it. And he bought it, drove it home.
Wow.
He drove it all the way home. And he said it ran great. I was like, perfect. It's a Honda. So I guess, like, as a seller of motorcycles, we try to buy brands that don't break down on.
You know, the best deal, I found a video the other day. I tried to switch phones and found some old videos when I was trying to switch the phone over and was laughing. But anyway, when I got that Honda CB 360, and then I had the Suzuki GS 450,
Mm-hmm.
and I finally the one was given to me, the Honda, and through Bob and through a friend, got it running. I rode that up the street and said, I don't want this thing. And, listed that. I might have had both of them listed for 1,500. I don't know what it was, something like that. And a friend of a friend was contacted me and was looking for his first bike or whatever he's rode before. He showed up with a guy. The guy said, "Are you good?" He goes, "I'm good. Thanks for the ride." He got out of the car with a helmet in his hand and goes, "I'm here to look at the bikes." And I said, "No, you're taking one of them because you don't have a ride." I was
Yeah.
like, this deal is done,
Yeah.
And he looked at both of them and he picked the GS 450. And I got a video of him riding away. And it was, a family bike that was given to me a long, long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It
when
was
he
a
pulled
nice,
away,
nice bike.
he kind of beep beep when he pulled out onto Essex. And I almost had a tear in my eye, but I thought that was hilarious. Get out of the car. I said, this deal's done. You don't have a ride home.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Yeah.
I've definitely done that before. You
Wow.
and you and I usually grab them together because you were my ride.
That's
to
right.
my motorcycles, but
Right.
I've definitely been dropped off. Oh, what was it? I don't remember what it was. There's a lot of them that I've done that with.
Well, the bearded mechanic has got a YouTube out where he's got challenges where he shows up with his truck and trailer, and his deal is I'm going to get the bike running and ride it home, and that's the whole part of the video.
Right.
And I think of you and I every time I see it, going, "This is something you would do." I would be too much OCD, but you would do it,
Oh yeah.
as the challenge. Let's get it running and ride it home.
Oh yeah. So there's this guy called Vice Grip Garage. I don't know if you've watched any of his stuff. You should. He gets
Okay.
old, he finds old classic bad. We're talking bad. Like I can't believe you're driving this home. Like there's
Hmm.
no sort of structure on it at all. It's all rust. Like classic
Yeah.
cars, like all
Yeah.
350 Chevys and Fords and or 327 Fords and like all sorts of cool, awesome cars. And the whole episode is him being dropped off by his wife and trying to fix this thing and drive it 500 miles home.
My gosh.
But yeah, I think I should try doing that this year. I mean, I can't. The problem is with Vermont, I need a title and all that jazz in order to register it. But
Well, our problem is will my old white construction van make it to pick up your motorcycle to put it in the van and get it home? That was our challenge. So
right, right, right.
I got a Chevy Sierra Silverado truck the other day from a friend,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, really good shape. It's a 2000, and I drove it. I've been driving vans for work for years. I've had 3 or 4 of them. I
Mhm.
drove this thing the other day. I thought I was the biggest vehicle on the road. That's how it felt to me. Extended cab and, 7-foot bed or whatever, but
Yep.
I thought I was driving something like this down the road. I thought, how do people work and drive out of these things? So we're going to use it for camping and general stuff. I'm not getting rid of the van just yet, but uh, we have a nosy neighbor group on Facebook, that says, "Hey, somebody's cat's hanging out my yard. Will you come get it?" That kind of stuff, neighborhood. So they're crazy around here the way they drive. And I was going to put a note on there and say, I got my first pickup truck. I've had vans. Before I register it, what's the minimum height that I'm required to lift this thing? And how bright of LED lights do I have to put on it to intimidate senior citizens when I come up
Right,
on them?
right.
Just to see if I can get a rise out of everybody on the group. But it's so weird driving this thing, when you're used to driving vans. And I don't know if it's because of the position, you're closer to the front end than you are a truck, but
Hmm.
I don't know, I'm looking forward to it.
Right.
It's in great shape.
Good, man.
Yeah.
Nice. I go the opposite direction. I have small vehicles. I got that little Honda Insight this
Right.
past year. Gets like in the summertime with the summer radials about best tank. I think it was like 68 miles per gallon.
That's crazy.
But the exhaust manifold just fell off of it today. Driving it and
The manifold or the muffler?
the manifold, it snapped at the manifold right above the cat, right where it goes in the engine. It snapped. So I got the turbo kit I'm putting on that, so it doesn't matter. He's come off anyways. But I just don't have. I went and just welded it because I got the
I
little.
was
I
gonna
got
say
that
you got a
little.
fancy welder now.
That
You
thing
can
is
do that.
awesome. I was like, because it where I welded it before, the weld was still there, but it just like the crack expanded, and so I'm like bent it back, and then I re-welded, and it's the pipes rusted. It just needs to go.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
I got my little wire feeder out that Craig gave me, Campbell Hosfield. You know, it was probably $199 new
yeah,
15 years ago. And the foot pegs on the Coleman mini bike were bad. And I was trying to get a couple of people to come over weld it for me. And I thought, I can't hurt this thing. So I put some slug metal in there and put the pipe over it. And, you know, I just messed around with the knobs to where I got something to stick on it. And at the end, I determined that I'm a grinder, not a welder. And it's, you know, it worked, but it kind of inspired me to just, besides stinking the whole house up, you know, because the master bedroom's right above us in the
oh yeah,
shop.
oh yeah,
So anything I do goes straight up.
yeah, oh yeah,
And Deb's very patient with me, but sometimes in the evening when I come up, she's just like, "What did you do down there?" You know.
right.
So I'll have to wait till the weather's warm and I set up fans and open the garage door and blow everything out. But I'm gonna try and build some stuff, you know, with some metal that I got and see if I can practice. So I'm ready for the next big welding job, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I got to do. I mean, like, I want to do custom stuff
Yeah,
eventually. You know,
yeah,
it's just nice to have something that like fixes metal, like correctly. Not correctly. I'm horrible at welding, but like, it's like this piece needs to be stuck to this piece. Okay, it's stuck. You know, so
I'm
I
not saying
probably
I can do everything. I can do quite a bit on a bike, but
yeah.
the two things I wanted to learn was welding, and the other thing is, you know, respokes on a rim from scratch. I
Oh
always wanted to learn how to do that, and I think as a kid I tried something and failed, but I think that would be incredible. And when I got this 125 that's all rusted, I thought, well, that'd be a good one to learn from. I'll just get some rims.
yeah.
And they want, you know, $250, $300 for a set of rims. I'm like, I'm not doing this. So,
Right. No way.
but I would like to learn how to do that someday. Um,
Do lacing wheels.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would take me 4 tries, but you know, it'd be
I
um,
think I think for me it would be really difficult to figure out how long they're supposed to be. I don't
right.
know how it works. I've seen people do it, but I don't know if would ever do that. I think I would rather just do another engine rebuild than do something like that. But
Yeah, Craig was good and he was going to try and show me, you know, before he passed away, but uh you know, never had an opportunity to say, "Here, let's do this." But
yeah.
he did it on the 250. He re-spoked both of them, put stainless spokes on them, and
Hmm.
changed the rim on one to make it a little bit different to put a different tire on it, and then redid the front. So
Right. Right. Because he's the kind of guy that like if you want to go wider on a tire, you got to do the rim too. Like
yeah,
you can't
right.
just put the bigger tire on. You have to put
No,
the rim
no,
on.
you can't do that. And it might have been the diameter might have been different too. I don't know if it was wider. I haven't checked
Uh
it to see what it looks like, but
well yeah. That's like like it was like he went from like a 16 to a 17 or something like that.
I can't remember. And I bought another one for parts. And the big thing with those 250s is the little black box that's stuck up in the frame
Mm-hmm.
is, as Ken says, unobtainable, if you can say that, that nobody
Unobtainium.
can find it.
Yeah.
And so I paid hardly nothing for the bike. And when I got home, I thought, oh, there's no black box on it. Well, it was up in the frame and I didn't know that's where it was. But I got a set of wheels and some other parts and got that black box. And that was worth it to put it in the container and wait for someday if I need it, it's there. But I thought it'd be neat to have those rims and redo them and have a different set of tires. Maybe have road tires and the other one be, you know, semi knobbies or whatever to make more of a tracker out of it and be able to
Right.
switch back and forth.
Yep.
So someday,
Someday.
someday.
Someday we'll get all these projects done.
That's right. Get all the wood.
You'll get to clean the whiteboard off and rewrite everything on the
That's
next
right.
page 2.
That's right. Man.
Well, Johnny, well, thanks for thank you so much for joining tonight, and thank you everybody for tuning in and listening to us.
Yeah,
If you like what you see, make sure you like and subscribe. This will be airing on the Jed's Moto channel, and we'll also have it on our podcast channel because we haven't used that in years. So we'll be putting new content on. So we'll try to do this more often. I think we have it tentative to meet weekly, but who knows? We'll see how often we'll throw
that's
the
right.
out. So if you like what you see, make sure you like and subscribe, or just click a like and follow us on your little podcast software app that you use. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks, folks.
We'll see you.